All glories to Mother Atasha. All glories to the religion of love. All glories to our assembled devotees. All glories to our Supreme Lord. O Lord God, please help us live out these teachings, be an example of love in the world. Jai. Okay. This is our fourth installment in a row on the meaning of words, and our little list is getting smaller and smaller. Or in this case, the words get bigger and bigger. They have more room now on the screen share. And I wanted to add a quick annotation to last week's class when I talked about the Halloweeny topic of ghouls and goblins and witches and ghosts and all those, ooh, spirits kind of things. I forgot to mention that if you ever wanted to get rid of some bad spirits or ghosts or witches or things like that, the scriptures give a remedy. And all you have to do is chant the holy names of God out loud. That's it. Any of God's names from the scriptures, chant out loud and they will flee. Pretty neat. In fact, in the Vedic scriptures, like the Garga Samhita, Srimad Bhagavatam, there are mantra armors, kavachas, actually, that you can recite to give one protection. These kavachas. And it's a whole, big mantra, protect all of your entire body from evil. And guess what those mantras are comprised of? A whole bunch of names of God. So, interesante. So you want, Casper the Ghost to go away, chant the holy names out loud. And you could also, my Native American elder friend told me you can offer water to a ghost. But better than that, you can offer prasad, or soul food water that's been offered to the Lord in love and devotion, and then offer that blessed water to a passing spirit. So, anywho, now back to today's lesson, or words. First off, we have reality, and its juxtaposition word, contrary, illusion. Reality and illusion. So what do these two mean in the context of knowledge from the scriptures? So reality, we ain't talking about, a reality show. Although, this is somewhat like a show, in a sense. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that film, The Matrix. It's a classic. The first one's the best. And you guys familiar with the premise? In the future, it's a apocalypse, AI or robots taking over, and humanity is just plugged into this virtual reality called the Matrix, while their bodies are in some energy harvesting pods kind of a thing, right? And then to get out of that, out of those pods and wake up to the actual reality, which is quite grim. And then the last humanity lives deep underground having raves and stuff. Well, anywho, that concept is actually not far off from the truth in terms of what we perceive to be as our reality actually is not reality. This is actually illusion. Why is it illusion? Now, in the simplest terms, what distinguishes reality from illusion is whether or not it is eternal in nature or if it's temporary. Reality is what is eternal. Illusion is what is temporary. So, obviously, if you remember the definitions of material nature, material energy, and spiritual nature. So, the spiritual nature is eternal. It's unchanging, undying, ever increasing, ever expanding. And so, true reality is of the spiritual. Whatever is in nature spiritual, or of spiritual consciousness, that is our actual reality. This divine consciousness, this is actual reality. Whereas everything in the material world, although it's real, sorry, some drag racing in the background. although it's real in sense like, I can touch these things, I'm experiencing these things, they're real, but because all of this is limited and temporary. And we might think, even, some like a mountain that lasts for millions of years, even that is still temporary. What was that? There's things from the trees falling on us. Also, temporary, all these calamities, yes. So this is of the nature of illusion because it doesn't last. It's material. And the material energy itself is very ephemeral. It's constantly changing. Of course, the universe goes on a time scale that is so grand, it's beyond normal comprehension. But even that still is ever passing, it's temporary, it's limited. It is illusory. Now, we defined consciousness in a previous week about that being a symptom of the spirit soul. So if we relate to our experience in life, the scriptures teach that there are 4 stages of consciousness that you can experience while in this body, in this world. Wakefulness, dreaming, deep dreaming, and divine consciousness. So wakefulness, or defunct consciousness, you can say, or conscious state, is what we are experiencing right now. All of us who are, we are awake, we've logged into Discord, we are discoursing. So we are in a conscious state, for example, right? When you are sleeping and you're dreaming, that is a semi-conscious state, and you are in a dream-like state. And when you are, let's say, in a coma, where not much activity going on in the brain, that is deep sleep or unconscious, where you're pretty much disconnected from the external things around you. And then divine consciousness, which is transcendental to all of that, or you can say 4th dimensional. Hippies are going to love that. 4th dimensional is beyond the material nature, beyond this world. And you can experience that while in the body, if you purify your heart and mind of all things not of love, all the ignorance, all of the illusion, right? So, a good example to understand better the nature of this being temporary would be like a puff of smoke. Like skywriters with the airplanes. They write something in the sky with the airplane, you can see it, and then eventually the wind, and it's gone. Or let's say a dream you had. You experience a dream, and you remember the dream, but when you wake up from the dream, you realize, oh, that was just a dream. Now I'm awake. Okay? Well, the dream was real. It's not like it didn't happen. It actually happened, and it exists in your memory. You experience that. So it's a real dream, but the reality of it was false because it wasn't actual reality, right? It wasn't a dream. Well, our wakeful state of consciousness that we're currently in is itself like a dream. Kind of like that Matrix analogy, right? It's actually a dream. Because when you awaken to your original consciousness, your spiritual consciousness, you become spiritually realized, it literally is like waking up from a dream. So all those 3, the states of consciousness that are of this dimension, you can say, sleep, wakefulness, dreaming, and deep dreaming, well, technically they're all in a dream-like state. It's all illusory. Because it's not the ultimate eternal reality. And Mother Natasha, she said, it's like waking up from a bad dream, actually. You ever wake up from a nightmare? You wake up and you go, oh, it was just a dream. Thank goodness. That's what it's like, she described, waking up from the dreamlike material, illusory state of consciousness or covered consciousness compared to our original state. Oh, I see. Vry is typing away his notes. Okay. Let's set that aside for now. I saw some bubbles going. So an illusion. Illusion is, again, everything that's false, temporary, is a material consciousness, limited, temporary, like a puff of smoke that goes, or like the dream that we experience in our sleeping state. That is all of this right here. Although it's a very compelling dream. It's quite convincing. We are not, remember, these bodies at all. We are spirit souls within these bodies. And we're basically unaware of how we are using these bodies and senses. This is our field of activities, this body for the spirit soul, to gratify our senses and do work and fulfill desires in this material world. But that's not our original state of being. This is not our original home. Our true reality, that only lies with God and in the spiritual. So, our next word, reincarnation. Yes. Reincarnation. I know there's a lot of folks that don't believe in reincarnation, simply because it isn't really talked about in the Abrahamical scriptures. Well, just because it isn't mentioned, like New York City is not mentioned in the Bible, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's there, just like Jerusalem, it's there. Right? So, reincarnation is a fact. And there are innumerable scriptures that elucidate all the knowledge of reincarnation. Or, in a sense, what reincarnation means is that when someone dies, their soul takes birth again in this world. That is the meaning to reincarnate. And yes, this is what we have been doing. Now, there is actually some knowledge of reincarnation in the Bible, but it was actually taken out. Womp womp. The Second Council of Nicaea, the people in their ignorant view, thinking that they were so wise, they took it out of the Bible, or took it out from the canon teachings, and that's what they did. The Bible that we have today, the New Testament, for example, has gone through a lot of changes by worldly men, by organizations who've changed a lot of things and omitted. I mean, there's 12 disciples of Jesus, right? Well, 13 actually. Don't forget Mary. She was an actual disciple. And each one of them had a gospel, but all we get is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Only 4. Where are the others? I count 9 missing, right? Even Judas had a gospel. They all preached. So they took out reincarnation. And I won't get too much into it, but the main reason why it was taken out is because it didn't fit in with their strategy, the church's MO, their motive for, world domination, more or less. Recruitment, power, conversion, right? Because, they figured if we tell people you only get one shot at life, and you don't worship Jesus and the church, and otherwise you go to hell for all eternity in fire, then that scares a lot of people into submitting and doing what the church says. So it's propaganda, it's politics, it's marketing. It's a marketing campaign, I should say. So, but reincarnation is real. I mean, even in the Bible, when Jesus sent his disciples in twos to preach, and when they returned, they they're asked by Jesus, their experiences, and then he says, "Who do the people say I am?" And the people say, "Well, some people say you are the prophet Elijah, or Elias, returned from the dead." Da, da, da. So even in the psyche of the people in those days, reincarnation was understood, right? But it got stamped out after so many generations from public understanding. At least in the Western world, not in the East. No, in the Eastern world, it's been common knowledge and still is. And the scriptures give, like I said, voluminous information on the subject matter. So, we talked about karma. Remember, as you sow, so shall you reap, right? So when this body is dead, quote unquote, or I should say, when it's no longer usable, like a shirt or a piece of cloth that is tattered and torn, and your wife tells you, get a new shirt, which happens to me kind of often, at least as of late. I'm joking, love. Then you throw out the old shirt, you get a new one, right? And that's basically like these bodies. The body is temporary, and when it's no longer useful, and it, you can say, expires, then the spirit soul moves on to another body and takes birth again. And that happens as long as we are in material consciousness and have karmic ties to this world. Basically, unless we become fully surrendered, beloved lovers, servants, devotees of the Lord again, back to our original consciousness, we'll continue to take birth in this material creation. And it's not just a human birth you'll get. You'll be lucky if you get a human birth again. The human birth is actually quite rare. It says in the Srimad Bhagavatam there are 8,400,000 species of life that a spirit soul could take birth in this universe. So, and technically speaking, we have been through every single one of those species at one point or another. So we're talking millions and millions of births that we've had in this universe. And to get to the human birth, that is the blessed opportunity. It's the golden ticket when you get a human birth. That's why we mustn't waste this life at all. We have to take advantage of this human body as much as possible to perfect life and break this cycle of reincarnation, the samsara of birth and death. That's what samsara means. It's a cycle of birth and death. Okay, it's as known in the East. And where you go in your next body, and I know I was requested by one of our friends here to give a class on the afterlife, what happens after death. Well, in a nutshell, where you go, you, the real you, the spirit soul, where you go, well, you know where the body goes. It goes, 6 feet underground, or it's burned to ashes, or eaten by worms or dogs and jackals and birds in the field. Now, we know what happens with the discarded, expired material body. But where you go, where we, the spirit souls, go, is as we desire and as we deserve. And the Srimad Bhagavatam gives a lot of really neat information that you can pretty much predict where someone's going to end up in the next life based off of how they live in this life. And remember, karma is neutral. It doesn't think of good and bad, nice or not nice. It just gives you reactions to your actions. And it tries to fulfill your desires. So it's actually said someone who eats like a pig, who eats anything undiscriminately, just eats anything, like everything at that crazy market in Shanghai, it's all the crazy things they cook. I'm joking. I don't want to rip on the Chinese, but they do eat a lot of crazy things. I've seen YouTube. And if you just eat anything, then yes, there's a high chance you'll get the body of a hog in the next life. And you'll have opportunity, by the grace of the universe, to eat whatever and be fully satisfied, including stool. If you, let's say, act like a dog, running here, running there, always trying to seek some pleasure, getting rejected here and there, always seeking this thing, that thing, running around like a stray dog in the street, you could get a dog body next life. So it depends on our consciousness, our karmic reactions. How we live in this life does determine our next form of body. And in fact, at any given moment, if lightning were to strike and you would die immediately, for example, for any reason, at any given moment, there is a body awaiting us for our next life. And it's constantly changing. So what could be my next body if I was to die right now could be wildly different as if I was to die tomorrow, depending on my consciousness. So it's not only to do with your karmic reactions and what you deserve, but it's also based on what you desire, your state of mind, at the actual time of death. For example, it says in the Srimad Bhagavatam that for those who do take birth as a human in their next life, it's most common that men will take birth as a woman next, or a woman will take birth as a man next. Because often the thoughts that the dying person has in their final moments is of their spouse. Right? Like the war movie. The guy's dying, tell my wife I love her, and he's thinking of his wife. So, yeah, it's kind of funny. So if you stay in a human body, your chances of flip-flopping genders is high, or God knows what gender you're going to land in this day and age. All the gender-neutral binary stuff. It's hard to keep track. All, again, on the illusory platform, right? We're not these bodies. So, and if you, by chance, or by practice, in your final moments of this life before death, fix your mind on the Supreme, on God, on His holy names, then it don't matter what karmic baggage you're still holding on to, how much desires and worldly ties anchoring you to this material realm. If you chant the names of God in your final breath before death, straight shot to the spiritual world. That is the spiritual loophole, actually. There's a loophole. Lawyers aren't the only ones who can bend the rules. There's one spiritual loophole that we can all take advantage of. And this is actually a scriptural loophole. And it says in the Bhagavad Gita, for example, whatever state of mind one has at the moment of death, that state he will attain without fail. And there's a beautiful story in the Srimad Bhagavatam of a sinful man named Ajamila. And Ajamila was a very, very naughty person. I won't get too much into it, but he's very naughty, and he was an old man, and he's still making babies, like basically trailer park guy, And he had this pet kid, it's like little baby kid, and he's an old guy in his 80s, and he loves his little baby boy, and he takes his little baby boy everywhere he goes, in the shower and for snack time and reading time. He's always with his little baby kid, right? But because of his culture, even though he's naughty, he gave his child a name of God from the scriptures. It was just, common. right? And at the moment of death, he was frightened, he's dying, and he calls out his little son. Oh. Actually, he used the name Narayan. Narayan. And he died. And as the story goes, just actually a pretty cool story. The Yamadutas come, the agents of Yamaraj, basically taking him to the hellish regions to suffer because of his naughtiness. Right? Remember, it's a temporary suffering. It's not eternal. No. But you do pay your dues. You do have your comeuppance. Nothing's forgotten by the universe. You may escape man's laws and the punishment of your nation, but you won't escape the laws of the universe. God's infallible laws here, no. So he's about to get dragged down to the hellish regions to suffer. And suddenly, the Lord's servants, these angelic beings, these Vishnudutas, they come and they say, where are you taking him? He's coming with us to the spiritual world. And they're like, who are you guys? What do you guys know? This guy's a sinful wretch. He's coming with us to suffer and receive judgment for his activities. And they said, you guys don't know anything, because his last breath was calling upon the name of our Lord. And therefore his whole sinful life has been purified, and he's coming with us. And he did. He went to the spiritual world. So if you can chant the holy names of God at the moment of death, just before that if you can, you will go direct to the spiritual world, to God, forever. No more reincarnation, eternal life of bliss and knowledge with God now and forever. Oh my goodness, it's a fast track. It's wonderful if you can do that. And devotees, we never know when we're going to die, right? And there's a high chance that when we're dying, we might be in such a incapacitated state, organs failing, God knows what's going on, you might even be unconscious. Oof. It's terrible if you can die when you're unconscious. You have no control. People think, I want to die in my sleep, so peaceful. It's actually dicey. You don't know where you're going to end up. But if you die consciously, you can actually direct your next life. It's quite interesting. And so devotees, we chant constantly, all day long. So as a matter of habit, we might just be chanting in that moment that death comes and this body's finished and the soul leaves the body. Pretty neat. So that's why I know for a fact that Mahatma Gandhi, you guys, some of you already heard me say this before, but when he was shot by an assassin, his last breath was Ram. Ram's the name of God, mind you. So the movie with Ben Kingsley, he says, "Oh God," but no, they cheapened it. He says He says an actual name of God. And the thing is, he had a lifelong practice of chanting God's name. He said God's name as a matter of habit. Like if I stub my toe, I'd be like, "Oh, dang it," ow. He would stub it, so I'd be like, "Hey Ram," as a matter of habit. He's chanting so much. So I know for a fact Gandhi made it to the spiritual world, because his last breath he chanted the names of God. It's pretty cool. Oh my goodness, we're already almost out of time. I've only covered these 3 so far, and I could even explain more about reality, illusion, and reincarnation. Oh my gosh. Well, breaking the cycle of birth and death is the goal, actually. It's the byproduct of spiritual realization. We want to end the cycle of birth and death, end the suffering in this material world, and go back to the spiritual world. And to do that, we have to come again to love. Learn to love as God loves, unconditionally and with pure surrender, coming to a state of pure devotional service. So, for a pure devotee of the Lord, there's no question of where they're going to end up after death. They already know that they're going to the spiritual world already. And therefore, they are fearless in this life. So if you really want to be actually fearless, become a pure devotee. Because you'll have no fear. If anything should happen to you, you know exactly where you're going. But for all of us who are in an illusion state of consciousness, we are, unaware of true reality. We're still conditioned, still ignorant. We don't really have a true understanding or know exactly where we could end up next. So, in old days in India, after the age of 50, when you retire, it was common culture, in spiritual culture, to you dedicate the second half of your life, assuming you live to 100, to spiritual practice. So okay, you did your thing, you did the career, you had the kids, you were daddy, you were grandpa maybe. Now it's time to focus on the next life, where you're going to end up after this life. And a wise person doesn't want to end up anywhere else in this material world. They want to go home to the spiritual world, which is, oh my gosh, you can't even equate how much better it is. It's unlimitedly better. So that's the goal, to get back home and to take as many friends with us. That's real love. We don't just go home alone. We all go together. Yay. That's great love. So I'll stop there. We'll get into nirvana next week. Smell like Teen Spirit. Sorry, not that nirvana. So, Jai. Let me pause this. Okay. Oops. Does anyone have any questions? I see Vry was very busy on the chat. He's making his
always, brother. Always.
His mental notepad is become public for all of us. I see. Even had time to post some gifs. Before I try to decipher all that, if it's even decipherable, did you have a question or comment, perchance, brother?
I do not. I was getting my own understanding of what you were telling me in terms of the understanding of it all. Some of it is quite literally word for word what you said. Some of it is my own interpretation of it. But for most likely, I would like, if there's any issues with what I said, to clarify.
Okay, then I will go through it. Let's see. Let's see what he said. Reality is not illusion, it is. Reality is what is eternal. True reality is of spiritual, beyond understanding, from flesh, wakefulness, dreaming, deep dreaming, divine consciousness, dreamlike state, illusionary. It's like waking up from the dream, like material consciousness, very compelling dream, quite convincing, but it's not our true original home, not our true original reality. Dying, then soul takes birth into this. Yeah, it's basically like your notepad. You're taking notes in class, but in the chat.
I am. I am.
Dying, then soul takes birth into this reality again. Well, I hope you're saving these for your own, keeping. Known as reincarnation, 70 books in the Catholic Bible, is 70 books, which was 7 more than the King James Version. They are Tobit, Judith, First Maccabees, Second Maccabees, Wisdom, Sirach. Are you talking about some like the the Apocrypha? Some of those missing books that the Ethiopian Orthodox Church has? Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. And there's way more than those, my gosh. Who knows what's buried in the catacombs of the Vatican, my gosh. Then they don't include the scroll of the prophet the prophet Enoch, the Ebla tablets, the scrolls of Ezra, the scrolls of Adam, the scrolls of Seth, the scrolls of Abraham, the books of wars mentioned in the book of Numbers 21:14, the book of the covenant is mentioned Exodus 24:2, 2 Chronicles, the book of Barnabas, the book of Joshua, mentioned the book of Joshua, Samuel, the book of covenant, tablets of Telamon. Gotcha. Body expires, spirit soul moves along, as long as the spiritual consciousness and our material tide mustn't waste life, take advantage, break the cycle of reincarnation, karmic retribution, karmic is karma, as it is, reaction to your actions, body dependent on continuous and karmic retribution time of death. Fix your mind on the supreme before death. It does not matter what karmic baggage you hold in the moment, the spirituality, rather straight shot, spiritual. And then he put a gif of a orangutan on life support. Okay, he went into the spiritual world, fast track by calling out God's name for death. Oh God, you're doing lovely. Thank you. Moral support. True understanding we lack. Next life, want to go to home, spiritual world, take as many friends with you. That's real love. Oof. Okay. Well, unpack that. Unzip that rare folder,
A lot of information.
I don't know what to say about all that. Something came to mind, and I lost it. I got muddled in the list of things. Yeah, the Abrahamical scriptures don't have all knowledge. It's like Swiss cheese. There's some holes. That doesn't mean it's not enough cheese to get you home to God. As long as, if you practice it purely. If you practice the Tanakh, the Bible, the Quran purely, it's enough. It's always enough. It depends on your surrendered heart. And if you have a good guide, a spiritual master to guide you in understanding the scriptures, coming in surrendered, loving service to God is all you really need. You don't need to have all knowledge. You don't. You don't need to know so many things in order to make life perfect. But having such knowledge, to hear such spiritual knowledge, is helpful. It's purifying. It does help us make more progress. And it can help us progress faster if we have knowledge that helps us from making less mistakes, for example, along the way. Right? Like, oh, I wish I knew this when I was younger, right? Kind of a, hindsight. So, yes, but you don't need to know everything. And if you want to know a lot, then yeah, you can make a study of the various scriptures. Yes. The core scriptures. You have the religion of love, and then you have the Quran, the Bible, Tanakh, and the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita itself will fill in most all of the holes, honestly. The Bhagavad Gita is incredible. It's a very succinct scientific scripture. But there are so much more. Oh, Adam asks, are the prophets just reincarnated people who weren't prophets before? Are future prophets roaming around us? Possibly to everything you said. So, there's precedence for everything you just said. Are prophets just souls like you and I who were going through the samsara cycle of birth and death, and then in that one glorious lifetime, by God's mercy, they became the fully surrendered, confidential servant of the Lord? Yes, that has happened before, and will happen again. As you said, are future prophets roaming around us? Sure. Same and a prophet is not so different from a spiritual master, a real spiritual master, honestly. But a prophet may not necessarily come in disciplic succession. However, both souls are chosen by God to give His message in the world, for He is well pleased with their surrendered devotion. And, the opposite spectrum, there are great souls who do reincarnate intentionally. In fact, one of the things of a real spiritual master, and we're going to get into this, and I guess I'll do a little sneak peek now when we talk about spiritual master and disciple and initiation, is that a spiritual master, when they take on a disciple, in mind, you're talking about the real gurus, the real, rare, pure devotee masters. When they take on a disciple, that is an eternal bond, an eternal connection, a promise that they will take this soul under their wing and help them get home to God, however long it takes. Which means, if a disciple, or multiple disciples, which is usually the case, doesn't finish the work, doesn't purify their heart, doesn't go home to God at the end of this life, but instead continues in the cycle of birth and death, then that spiritual master willingly reincarnates as well. And by the grace of God, he'll make a meeting in the next life with one, again with their master. Of course, the bodies will be different. Different name, different body, maybe even different gender. And same with the disciples. But it'll be the same soul. And they would resume the same relationship of master and disciple, of inquiry and questions and answers and guiding and service. It's very, very beautiful. That's why we say all glories to the assembled devotees, especially those pure devotees who willingly come back to this mess of a world and all of its suffering, all of its problems and all the they willingly come back for us, to help us, and they tolerate all of the nonsense. That's so much love. Oh my gosh, you can understand why God loves these souls so much, why they're so dear to him, and how they willingly sacrifice so much to bring us all back to God in love. So all glories to the spiritual master. Someone asked me, where do you think Mother Tasha is now? I have no doubt she's taken birth again somewhere. We'll find out. I have no doubt. Like every great master, they always come back. In fact, they pray. They don't pray, let me go back at the spiritual at the end of life. They say, oh Lord, please bless me with your devotional service birth after birth. Oh, what love. Oh my gosh, it moved me to tears thinking of that. So yes, there are prophets, there are spiritual masters, there are great saints and souls that do come back. They do. And Bryce says, yeah, all glories, yes, all glories, oh my gosh, all the time, every day. Even like, let's say the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama is not a devotee. He's an impersonal Buddhist, yes. But he also has been reincarnated. This is his 11th time as the Dalai Lama, as the spiritual and cultural, leader of the Tibetan people. And it's been documented. It's been proven. There's all the evidence has been shown, and how they figure out who the Dalai Lama is in his reincarnation is quite fascinating, through the astrological charts and by the sages, and they put various belongings that used to belong to the former Dalai Lama with a bunch of random items, and the baby that they suspect is the Dalai Lama goes directly to his old possessions. And he even remembers, when Dalai Lama was a kid, he went to some old man and just pat him on the head. Yeah, you're my disciple. You're doing good. I remember you from that. So it's cute. So reincarnation, yes, is a thing. And we don't want to be reincarnated. We want to all go home in love. This is part of the great lessons that we're meant to learn here in this world, how to love. And to give you another movie reference, which I brought up again, is an older movie. Maybe not all of you have seen it. It's called Groundhog Day. It's a good fun movie. If you want a fun comedy that's very unique, Groundhog Day. It's an old movie with oh my gosh, his name eludes me. Bill Murray. So Groundhog's Day, the premise is that he's a reporter guy. He went to this town. It's a Groundhog Day, whatever, and it's a whatever day. And then the next morning he wakes up, but it's the exact same day it was yesterday. And every day he goes to sleep, he wakes up and he keeps repeating the same day over and like February 14th or February something. I don't know, some date. He keeps reliving it, and he's losing his mind. And he eventually starts like doing crazy things because he can't break the cycle. He ends up even like robbing a bank at one point and driving a car off a cliff and kills himself. And he still wakes up in the same day. Bill Murray, that's right. Bill Murray, Groundhog Day. But eventually, he starts tiring of being crazy and doing whatever nonsense, and he starts trying to do good things, right? And then He starts helping everybody around town. He's been reliving that day so much. He pretty much knows everybody in town and everything that's going to happen that day. So there's this one day at the climax of the movie. I guess I'm spoiling it for y'all. My bad. He does everything good, and he helps the most amount of people he possibly can, and just does good things. Not for what he gets from it, but just to do good, to help others. And when his whole days is in this mode of service and kindness and goodness, he breaks the cycle, and it's the next day he woke up. He also gets the girl at the end too, because it's Hollywood, right? So, but anyways, we need to go beyond goodness to break the cycle of birth and death in the material world. We need to go beyond goodness, again to that fourth dimension, divine consciousness, to pure love. And then we can be assured we'll break that cycle even before death. Why throw it to chance? Why risk it? Become spiritually realized now, in this life, and be with God now and forever. Be enlightened. We'll get to that next class. Before even death. Yeah. Be glorious. Okay. Anyone have any comments or questions? You good, love? You have a question? Oh, you nodded yes? No, you didn't? She's like this? No. Okay. You bring joy with your laugh, Hassan, I hope you know. Oh, okay, well, that's nice. It's actually what my name means, funny enough. Hassan is a Arabic word that means good guy, or good man, or handsome man, depending on who you talk to. Wink, wink. That's what it means in Arabic, Hassan. But where I grew up, I never said Hassan. It's not our accent. I say Hassan. And funny enough, Hassan with one S is actually a Sanskrit word which means to laugh or to smile. Isn't that funny? So I'm living my namesake. And
well, you were sure living up to it. I can tell you that for a fact. I watched your first video initially when I first began to follow the server, and I remember specifically that your laugh was distinct. It was unique, and I was just like, the typical and I was just like, hey, this is unique. I love it. This guy's effective. That's how I depict it from your laugh, believe it or not.
Oh, okay. Well, that's nice. Oh, it's legit. It's I can't fake that one. Long before regularly chanting, I had a nervous laugh, like You guys ever had like a you're in a circle of friends, maybe you know someone, or maybe you did younger, and you're around people and like some fake, like socially impulsive laugh for fitting in. I had a nervous laugh once. And then one day, like a couple years after my initiation, Mother Tasha told me, she said, "Oh, Hassan, that nervous laugh is gone." And I said, "Oh, well, I didn't even notice." To keep chanting, and all the negative, all the non-good laughs, they'll fall away, and you keep chanting more and more and more, and you'll get more joy in your heart, and then it's gonna, that's the real secret in spiritual life. It's very joyful. So if you're looking now, I'm not saying to me, I'm definitely not saying follow me or nothing like that, but if you're looking, for example, a spiritual master, or someone for to be a guide, or for example, go to a happy person. not some depressed, serious, but someone who's in bliss, someone who's conscious, awake, and happy, right? That's And Mother Natasha was very serious, of course. It was part of the role. She's like the gravitas, right? But she was very, very happy, very joyful, very blissed, and I had a wonderful time every time I was around her. So cool. So yeah, association has an effect, and that just happens. That's why people like going to the movie theaters, especially for a comedy. If you go to watch a funny movie in the theaters and everyone's laughing, the environment, and you would laugh more at things than if you were just watching it by yourself. Well, that's just association too. So that's, yeah. It's nice to be together. But I'm glad my laughing is a form of preaching.
Yeah, listen. Of course, especially if you go originally back to the original video where you had so much skepticism. Oh my, brother.
Oh yeah, well,
You were somebody who began to be unsure about everything. You were skeptic. You weren't sure about anything in terms of what is true and what is false. And you came to the understanding that yes, this was true. And from that, it accumulates a lot more believers. Not that I'm saying that this is your goal, but I believe in you because you came from an understanding that somebody who was opinionated. And most people won't acknowledge the conception of opinions. They won't come. They won't come to the understanding that yes, I do hold an opinion. Rather, we were going to say, okay, well, this is what I think, but you had an opinion before this, and because of this, you had to change your whole self from the experiences you lived, and because the experiences you lived, you are now the person you are.
right on. You know, to be honest, I don't even like talking about myself much unless it relates to spiritual life and preaching, and if it's able to help. Mother Atasha did tell me when she instructed me to write down the stories of the Religion of Love movement, stories of Mother Atasha, which, one day it'll be a book. She said, when you write it, tell your story in it too, so that people can relate. So that's and that first video you're talking about, I was inspired to do, commanded really from my heart. I shared my experience because I understand that it's very relatable, because there's so much fake in this world, so much nonsense, and we can all be quite cynical, quite negative of all the negative stuff around us. It's pretty horrendous. And my experience of searching for truth and how I came about to where I am now, genuinely, someone growing up in the West in this culture, which we all are pretty much now. The world's getting smaller with the internet. Culture's all getting muddled now. It's very relatable, So, and I was happy to, share some funny stuff too, because, if you can't laugh at some things, it's pretty sad life. Even the bad things. But cynicalism or pessimism. One great spiritual master, Bhaktivedanta Swami, he said, having a pessimistic outlook of this material world is actually very beneficial for spiritual life. Think about that. To be pessimistic of this material world. Why? Because it fuels you more to seek the spiritual, because of all the suck around you. You'd rather seek satisfaction and happiness within in the spiritual, rather than try to chew the chewed of material pleasures. So, yes, I was very pessimistic and skeptical and cynical of a lot of things back then, and still am today, that relate to the material world. Or I'd say, in those days, I was more averse, I should say. Now I'm not really averse to all the things not beneficial to spiritual life. And that's just comes with progress in spiritual life. The more you keep chanting and purifying. So aversion is the same thing as attachment. We covered this actually a few weeks ago. So attachment, of course, when you're really attached to something, you're longing, you desire it. And aversion is the opposite, where you're very disgusted or you have no taste and you're repulsed by it, or you hate something, right? You hate, right? That would be an aversion. So I was very averse to a lot of things when I was younger. I was very anti a lot of things, and I admit, I had a lot of hate. I was very angry. I didn't just not trust all these bogus spiritual leaders and religious figures. Like, I had a lot of animosity towards them. I thought they're doing terrible things, and I would have negative thoughts, as well as politicians and other people too. Not just related to spiritual life. I was quite averse, but I come to understand by Mother Atasha's mercy in the scriptures that aversion is also a form of attachment, and it actually attracts more of such things in your life. Things you are attached to and averse to, you call into your life. For example, if you're thinking, let's say someone's around you's got a cold, and you're thinking, I don't want to get sick, I don't want to get sick, I don't want to get sick, I don't want to get sick. Well, you keep saying sick, 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 like you're going to catch a cold now. You pretty much willed it now into your life because you're so conscious of it, even in an averse manner. So I've learned to not be so averse. Of course, there's a lot of things I won't tolerate, and I don't compromise on my principles. And if I heard someone be quite offensive in front of me to a devotee or any messenger of God or whatnot, I wouldn't tolerate it one bit. But I wouldn't be trying to hate on others anymore. I learned my lesson. I ain't much a hater as I was when I was a kid. And again, these things come with time. The more you chant, hear, remember, engage in devotional service, you get purer and purer, and your life gets more joyful as you get more fixed in love of God. So, if anything relates to others and is helpful to their spiritual life, then sure, I'll share. But to be honest, I don't like talking so much about me. It's life should be more about God. Who cares? Who cares about?
I agree with you, Hassan.
Yeah.
You've always been somebody who's been somewhat not sure about telling their views in a way that it is something that can be negative or positive, in a way that it is something that can benefit people as well as can negatively affect people. And by that I mean, people may interpret it as they wish. That doesn't mean that what you say is wrong by any means. But all the words that you say, if you get a basic understanding from where you came from the original video, I think most people should watch your original video. Because a lot of people will watch, yes, in classes. But you come from a background of somebody who is skeptic. And by being a skeptic, you're not somebody who's easily going to believe anything. You're rational, as it is. And to be rational and to believe in certain things through experience definitely shows a lot of giving. And what I mean by giving, and I'm being ambiguous here, but giving just means essentially that you're like, hey, I know, but I had these views. But now that I had these views, I truly believe in this because I believe in this because of what I felt. And fundamentally, I've never been somebody religious myself. Of course, you address all people. But it's just to say that coming from a background that somebody who doesn't truly believe all things, because you're a rational person as it is, it brings me much comfort to find that you found your own truth within the scriptures and within the progress you made in life and the exercise of it.
Well,
And so,
I wouldn't call it my truth. More like the truth, which I am learning to experience and uncover within my heart. That would probably be more accurate.
the reason why I say your truth, I say your truth because you fundamentally found the truth in all truths. That is to now be your truth. I don't mean to reduce it to only being your truth. All I mean to say is that it's the truth.
Oh, you're
eventually found.
you are dangerous, Fry. You are just buttering me up. Look at that. You have your butter knife in hand, just
No.
spreading me.
But I'm just saying, listen, I'm not I'm just saying you found the truth.
I am not a croissant.
Listen, I'm right. Don't
Hold back your butter. Do not butter me. But I appreciate the kindness. Yes, I don't drink the Kool-Aid, and yes, the devotees are very practical, very they're very practical. Devotees are the most practical people, most rational people in all the world. Honestly, we're not blind followers.
Is that you meet in an aspect where it came from skepticism. No prophet in history, or at least most prophet in history, don't come from somebody who is saying, well, I don't really truly believe in this. You came from a background, you were like, I'm unsure about this, and you eventually found the truth from your action and your knowledge and from your understanding of things and your progression within religion and cultural beliefs. And so, because I say this, I admire you, genuinely admire you because of all of this. Because you were somebody who came from, of course, you had some religion before, it was your first video, but you were somebody who wasn't necessarily all religious. You had certain beliefs because of your family, but you didn't have beliefs because you truly believed in it. And now you truly believe in it because of the knowledge that you actually chased, the knowledge that you actually went after. And because of this, now you're somebody who had disciplinic succession, right? You're somebody who has genuine experiences in life, and because of this, you can tell other people your knowledge. And I really appreciate that because most people are zealous. I hate to say it, but most people will take their faith and be zealous about it, but you were always skeptic, and you found the truth from your own understanding of things and from your own evolution of things, really. So I really appreciate that. So thank you.
Well, you're very kind. I'll know in the future if ever I'm at an event and someone's going to introduce me, I won't choose you. Because you'll see all these nice things about me, which I will try to avoid. Keep it short.
I get it.
Thank you. Well, I'm very. You even browned that butter. I am very buttered up now. Thank you. I want to digest all that. And all jokes aside, you're very kind. I'm happy it's been relatable, and we've gone way over time. Didn't want to interrupt. But let's go ahead and close there so it doesn't get too long of a recording. So, all glories to Mother Natasha, all glories to Religion of Love, all glories to our assembled devotees, and all glories our Supreme Lord. Jai. And stop. Oh no.